Hey, welcome to the Faces of U.S. Missions, where we connect with the individuals behind U.S. Missions, diverse ministries, and initiatives. Who wants to be a missionary?
We're excited about the possibility of coming on. Really, the entire Great Commission is wrapped up right here.
Hey, welcome to the Faces of U.S. Missions, where we connect with the individuals behind U.S. Missions, diverse ministries, and initiatives. I'm Pastor Choco, Executive Director of U.S. Missions, and today I have the privilege of sitting down with Pastor Ted, pastor of Life 360 here in Springfield, Missouri. Let me just say this before he comes on and introduce himself. For many years, his church have been a blessing, predates me, and they've come alongside U.S. Missions. So I want to personally thank you and your ministry for embracing U.S. Missions. But would you let our viewers know a little bit about your ministry here in Life 360?
Thank you, Pastor Choco. Grew up on the mission field in Latin America and then came to California, which was our home district, Southern California. Went to college, pastored in inner city Los Angeles, full of immigrants in the projects, and such a great experience. I loved it so much. But it also showed me that there are key partners that pastors need. I needed in that situation, and then made my way over here to Springfield to pastor a wonderful church. Been here 21 years and been able to be a part of, from the beginning, supporting U.S. missions. The size of the church didn't matter. Robin and I, my wife, we were going to support missionaries, and we did, and we still do, and we're loving it.
Yeah, and we appreciate everything you've done. Pastor Ted, tell us, what is your view in regarding the United States and the importance of U.S. missions, and where do you see this need the most in our area as far as having U.S. missions here in the United States?
It just seems like more than ever this is a critical time for U.S. missions.
Yeah.
So we are true believers in our U.S. missionaries, but we support world missions. What a wonderful thing to be able to do, but I really believe in U.S. missions. We have, my opinion, one generation to help make a shift in America. So we have got to go for it on all levels, and to have quality U.S. missionaries, which we have. I've watched them as they come through Springfield here. And I've watched your team here, by the way, at U.S. Missions. And a lot of times people think, well, headquarters are kind of disengaged. Man, I've watched the people here. They are passionate and committed to missions here in America. So this is a critical time. I think our U.S. missionaries, they're like the elite Navy SEALs, and they're going out and to do things. You know, when I was young, you're too young to know this, but back in the 70s when I was a kid, there were 4 major TV networks, and America was fairly united in its cultural perspective and so forth. Right. Of course, now everything has changed, and the average Assemblies of God pastor in church, I think, has a wonderful niche that they play in their community, absolutely. But boy, we need specialists who come in and assist those pastors and go into areas where the average pastor can't do it. That's U.S. missions.
Yeah. You know, some of the things that in my listening and learning tour, Pastor Ted, in April and May, I called superintendents, leaders across this nation. What do you like about U.S. missions? What do you don't like about U.S. missions? And do you think is the need for missionaries? And I think somehow our churches have abandoned the Jerusalem, their backyards.
Yeah.
They prefer to go over an ocean, which is what is needed, but you can't do that at the expense of forgetting Jerusalem. And my job here as a director is to come along, pastors like yourselves and churches across this nation, and remind them that we have a backyard and people are dying. You've got ministries like Teen Challenge addressing issues, Youth Alive, Chi Alpha, Church Mobilization, all these ministries coming alongside local churches. What is some of the things in your mind that, as a pastor, you're seeing the climate of our culture? What has changed from the last 30 years to where we're at today that makes it necessary to have missionaries on the ground here in the U.S.?
Well, one of the largest is that the ends of the earth have come to us.
That's right.
So the Great Commission, Matthew 28, and we do that. You know, we make disciples of all nations, and so we get that. And a lot of AG pastors will get that for sending and supporting missionaries overseas. But then when Jesus gives specifics, Acts 1:8, you're filled with the Holy Spirit to be witnesses in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, to the ends of the earth. 3/4 of that command is home missions for those that were in Jerusalem.
That's right.
That was theirs. And then the ends of the earth are back. So really the entire Great Commission is wrapped up right here. And I've seen, with the 7 windows of U.S. missions, and I was looking over this yesterday in preparation for this podcast, and every one of them has impacted our church. So the average, again, Assemblies of God pastor, I believe, does not avail himself or herself with what's available. These U.S. missionaries are here to assist the churches. And we've seen that from Youth Alive and Brad Keller, who transformed really our youth ministry of our church, as well as my sons, who are both now Assemblies of God ministers. And because of the input of Youth Alive, or Jack with Teen Challenge and the supports that can come in there, and chaplaincy, I'm part of the chaplaincy, police chaplaincy, and so forth. So all those things took place because of interactions with U.S. missionaries who really brought in my understanding of what we can do as local churches.
What is your hope, Pastor Ted, as you look at the landscape of America? What is your hope that U.S. missions would do to engage culture? Because let's go back in 1950s and 1960s, Christianity would set culture back then. 2024, they look at you and I, and we're uncool. We're countercultural to what's happening. What is your hope that U.S. missions would address in the climate that we have today?
And as Lord puts you here to help lead us in this, there certainly needs to be a new, I think, boldness and zeal for our U.S. missionaries and for the churches to have that same zeal. We know that it's not U.S. missionaries coming and they're taking the place of the pastors in the churches.
That's right.
Of course not. They're here to assist those and to assist the networks in the district. But I think we just have to be willing, the thought of martyrdom in America is never an issue. Right. Let me tell you, those pastors in Iran in Cambodia or wherever it could be, that was real to them and is real.
That's right.
We need to have that same understanding that it could be here. And in the meantime, let's get passionate. And we have a U.S. missions family that is passionate, so we need to get behind them. I would hope that in this next decade or two that we need to double the number of U.S. missionaries. There is a need here, and the missionaries are hardworking. They are willing to go where the average pastor is not able to go because they're specialized to that niche, whatever it is, cowboy or rodeo or whatever, motorcycle, police, all the different areas. Let's get behind them and embrace them. In our church, we don't just support them. We have embraced them and brought them in, and they've really helped change us. So our, seek, save, and then send. Let's just make it happen. I saw that in Panama, where I grew up. There were 3 Assemblies of God churches, and then when now there's over 1,000. Well, that's the United States. Let's go for it. Let's assist these pastors, and let's save people, and then send them out.
I appreciate the spirit of boldness that you're referring to, that we need in America. When there is a cultural shift in our nation, there's usually tendencies or responses. Some people could withdraw from that culture shift. Some people can accommodate it and say, well, I'm just going to accommodate it. I don't want to fight with them, Pastor Choco. Or there's others who oppose it, and they say, well, if they want to go to hell, let them go to hell. And I'm thinking, my word, those 3 responses are wrong. We should engage culture with the truth of the gospel. And that's the tagline of U.S. missions, the gospel displayed. We must display the gospel unapologetically. And if it offends people, so be it, because the gospel offends people. And so we cannot be afraid. And I love that part of what you said there, Pastor Ted, about a boldness. And here's my prayer for the U.S. I'm asking God for 10,000 missionaries. Right now we're over 2,000, but we're starting what's called Mission Ready Conference, which has never been done before. And we're going around the country recruiting. Who wants to be a missionary? Join God's army to reach America for Jesus. And so as a church that sponsors missionaries and supports U.S. and AGWM. What is some of your advice to pastors that are watching, that are not involved with U.S. missions or not involved with any missions at all? What would be your advice to them?
I don't know what to say if they're not involved. I think a lot of AG pastors are involved, but they feel like what they can do is this small number of steps. You know, we have 3 missionaries, U.S. missionaries. We support them. And then beyond that, they almost feel pressured sometimes if a missionary calls, whatever. So I've just learned from watching people like you and others that I flipped that whole agenda upside down. And so some of the things I do, and I would encourage pastors on this, I always take missionary calls. Missionary calls. Now, I have an office staff, but when I was in Los Angeles, I took the call because it was me. And we still do. The office staff will receive the phone call, but then they know, and they text me, hey, missionary so-and-so called, just wanted you to know, blah, blah, blah. Right. And then I'll call them, and it doesn't have to be a long, I'm stuck in this phone call. No, it's not that. I call and I say, hey, I'm running, but I just wanted you to know the office told me that you called, and we are honored that you as a missionary would call our church, and we're excited about the possibility of you coming on. Number 2, we never say no to a missionary. If they want to come for a window, then we say yes. And there's some parameters. You know, we have to have an open Sunday that works for them or an open Wednesday night. Right. But we never say no to that. And we always take it, and I don't ever feel bad or feel pressured. And pastors of Assemblies of God Church, don't feel pressured when a missionary calls. Receive them, talk to them, say, hey, I've got to go, I can't stay on the phone now. But send me your information. We'll take it to our committee, and we have our missions action team. We call it, don't like committees, it's a missions action team, and we meet every month, and we review all and there are a legion of requests, and we pray over them, and for most of them we say no. And I tell the missionaries that I say we'll probably be a no because we're already supporting 300 missionaries, our church, every month. Yeah. But the Lord may say and tell us to say yes, so we are going to consider it and whatever. And what I've found is pastors are appreciative. It's not the silent treatment. It's just say, hey, I love you, and I'll pray with them, and then I hang up because the system will work, and we'll get them in for a Sunday morning and so forth. And then I pray for the missionaries every day. I brought this. It's just an example, but I have these tongue depressors, and I every day I take 3 of them out of one little jar, and it's the missionaries, and I pray for them, stick them in this, and when the whole rotation happens, I stick it back, and we go through. But you know, like Kevin Welch there in Fairbanks, Alaska, for Chi Alpha, you know, and so forth. So I have a chance to pray for them. So not just supporting, but then praying. And of course, missionaries will tell us they'd rather almost have the prayer support than the financial, because it would follow the prayer.
Sure. Wow, that's just a great example to pastors that are watching from another pastor who loves missions. You mentioned Latin America. Were you a missionary there, or your parents?
My parents were missionaries, so I was a missionary brat, was what I was. You know, but it was interesting. Mom and Dad took us everywhere, and so we learned. My brothers Terry, Tim, and Tom, they're all Assemblies of God pastors, and myself, because we saw it, and Mom and Dad were real, and we saw the ministry happening and the growth that took place, and that can be America. Yeah. There's just, and it is. Yeah. I mean, we don't realize how much the kingdom of God is expanding here in America. We need to champion that, and then stand behind it and believe for even more, because it's a serious battle.
You know, as we wrap up here, I'm a firm believer, as the director of U.S. Missions, that we have an opportunity to engage culture. And we must do that, regardless who sits in the White House. Regardless. I said that yesterday. I don't care if it's an elephant, a donkey, or a monkey. It don't make a difference. The mandate of the church has not changed, which is to empty hell and fill heaven. Right? Matthew chapter 28, the Great Commission, it's not called the Great Suggestion. It's the Great Commission. And when I lived in Chicago and I pastored a church, I felt I was in a mission field, reaching prostitutes, drug dealers, gangbangers, going out there, putting my life on the line, being harassed by pimps and so forth, and death threats coming to me, and because we were rescuing these women. We live in a time where playing it safe in the United States is no longer an option.
Yep.
Maybe in the 50s and 60s you could have gotten away with it, but today, to be a Christian and to be a follower of Jesus Christ, to be a disciple of Jesus Christ, that's what we're hoping through U.S. missions, that we raise up an army that would display the gospel, and unapologetically, Pastor Ted, unapologetically. And we want to preach it. We want to reach people. We want to save people. And I want to thank you on behalf of U.S. missions, first of all, for supporting missions overall, AGWM, AGUSM, and having a heart that was birthed out of your mom and dad out there in Latin America, and you brought it here to reach Springfield and all over this country. Thank you for coming out here today. Any last words you want to give to our friends and leaders here before I sign off?
Just, it's an honor to support U.S. missions, and for every pastor out there, I say, man, get behind it, and I love that. Be bold and take a risk. Yeah. We need to, even in our finances, the prayer, absolutely. We support 103 U.S. missionaries, our church does, and then we have our world missionaries that we support. But we support them. That's a stretch for us. I was talking with the national leader and kind of lamenting because we're sending out more than financially the church people are giving in faith promise pledges and so forth. And I was kind of lamenting about that. And the national leader said, yeah, I've done that my whole life. Isn't it great? And in that moment, it just changed my perspective. I said, God, I'll never complain again about it. And God has provided. Our people have responded. And it is that heart and that passion that you're talking about. If pastors would only realize, let's have that. Let's take a risk. Step out by faith.
That's right.
God will just say, angels, go and bless that pastor, bless that church. And I see that happening at Life 360 Church.
Amen. Thank you so much for being with me today and in the faces of U.S. missions. For every pastor and leader that's here, the kingdom of heaven will never be in a recession, regardless of what's happening around the world. We operate in the economy of faith. So do not let your budget dictate your faith. Hey, thank you for tuning in to the Faces of U.S. Mission. I'm Pastor Choco. We are U.S. Missions. Together we seek, save, and send. God bless you all.